Hey guys, tonight, you're not drifting into a story that happens to someone else. Tonight, you are the child. And you don't get the luxury of pretending you're just listening. You're small enough that grown-ups still talk over your head, but old enough to understand the tone of their voices. You know when a voice means kindness. You know when it means business. You know when it means you're a problem someone wants to solve quickly. The air in Manhattan tastes like damp brick and coal smoke. It clings to the back of your throat. Your clothes hold yesterday's smells, street dust, sweat, and something sour you can't name but you've learned not to complain about. Complaining is a hobby for children who know where they're sleeping tomorrow. You're in a cluster of other kids, close enough that you feel elbows and shoulders every time someone shifts. Some of them stare too hard at nothing. Some of them whisper. Some don't speak at all, like they're saving their words in case words can buy food later. Grown men move around you with papers in their hands. A few women are there too, hands folded, faces set, eyes flicking over you the way you might look at a bruised apple and decide if it's still worth eating. And then you see him. He's not dressed like a beggar. He's not dressed like a man who sleeps in alleyways. His coat sits properly on his shoulders, like it belongs there. His boots look like they have opinions about dirt. E.P. Smith. You don't know his full name matters. You don't know his title matters. You only know this. He speaks like someone used to being listened to. And that means you should listen too. He's not cruel in the obvious way. He doesn't shout. He doesn't swing a strap. He doesn't snarl at you like you're a stray dog. Which is almost worse. Because when a person is loud, you know where you stand. When a person is calm, you have to guess. He tells you you're going on a trip. He tells you there's a place where the air is cleaner, where the nights are quieter, where you can work and eat and sleep under a roof. Work. That word lands heavy like a stone in your pocket. Work is not new to you. In Manhattan, you work just to stay alive. You run errands, you carry, you fetch. You do the small things that make adults toss you a coin like they're feeding a pigeon. But work coming from a man like Smith sounds different. It sounds arranged. It sounds decided. It sounds like a future that has already been written down somewhere you can't read. Still, there's something else in the room. Something buzzing under the words. Hope. Hope is dangerous. Hope makes you careless. Hope makes you imagine a bowl that's actually full, not half full with someone else's leftovers. Hope makes you imagine a bed that doesn't belong to the street. Hope makes you imagine a morning where you wake up and you don't have to immediately start bargaining with the day. You glance at the other children and see it in them too. Even the quiet ones, even the hard-eyed ones. They don't want to believe him. They want to believe him anyway. You're moved along, guided like a group of animals that are expected to behave if the adults keep the rope tight enough. You pass buildings that rise like cliffs. You pass doorways where people watch you with a kind of curiosity that costs them nothing. At the water, everything changes. The smell turns sharper. Salt, wet wood, old rope. The sound of water slapping the side of the boat is steady, almost soothing, if you ignore the way your stomach tightens at the sight of it. You're herded onto the boat, and you find a place to stand where you won't get stepped on. Someone's hand grips your shoulder, maybe protective, maybe possessive, maybe both. You don't turn too fast. Fast movements make grown-ups nervous. The boat rocks gently, but your life does not feel gentle. You think, if I fall in, will anyone jump after me? You immediately hate yourself for thinking it. You try to focus on the practical things, keep your balance, keep your shoes if you have them, keep your face blank. Blank faces make adults comfortable. A blank face says, I won't be difficult, I won't ask for too much, I won't remind you I'm a person. The boat pulls away. Manhattan begins to shrink, and with it, the only world you know. You don't know what's ahead, but you know what's behind, and it has never loved you. As the city fades into a blur of chimneys and grey sky, you hear an older child whisper something close to you. Do you think they'll pick us? Pick. That's the word that twists your stomach. Not help, not take in, pick. And you realise with a sudden coldness that the trip is not just travel, it's transfer, it's delivery, and if you're being delivered, that means someone is waiting to receive you. So you stand there with your hands close to your sides, trying to look like nothing and everything at the same time. trying to look small enough to be safe, trying to look strong enough to be wanted, and you tell yourself, very quietly, that whatever happens next, you will keep breathing through it, even if the adults forget to, even if they never learned how, because you did, and that has to count for something. Before the boat even finishes its journey, though, you're about to learn something that will stick in your memory like a splinter. Sometimes the biggest decisions about your life happen while you're standing right there, listening, and nobody thinks to ask what you want. The boat ride is long enough for your legs to ache, long enough for the wind to dry your lips until they crack, long enough for the children around you to stop whispering and start sinking into themselves. You find out quickly that being in a group doesn't always mean you feel less alone. Smith moves among you with a practiced kind of calm. He checks on the children the way someone checks on cargo, making sure it's still there, still intact, still usable. That thought makes you angry. Then it makes you scared. Anger is loud inside you, but you keep your face still. You've learned the rules. No one rewards anger in a child. A child's anger is treated like noise. A child's sadness is treated like inconvenience. So you become quiet. Quiet children survive. At some point you notice two passengers, grown-ups who are not part of the group, not part of your world, not wearing the same seriousness as Smith. They glance at the children with interest that feels too focused. You've seen that look before on the street. Adults who aren't looking at you as a child, but as a solution. A pair of hands to carry water, a body to scrub floors, a mouth that can be fed cheaply, a life that can be shaped into whatever they want because it has no one else holding it. They talk to Smith. You can't hear every word, but you hear enough to understand the direction of it. There is bargaining in the air. Not loud, not rude, just practical. Then it happens. Two boys are brought forward. Maybe they're chosen because they look healthy. Maybe they're chosen because they look obedient. Maybe they're chosen because they look like they won't fight. Or maybe they're chosen because the passenger simply likes the shape of their faces. You don't know. That's the worst part. You don't know what rules are being used, so you can't follow them. You watch as those boys are taken aside. No big ceremony. No announcement that makes it feel like a life is changing. Just a quiet shift. A boy stands near you one moment, and the next moment he's not part of you anymore. You expect someone to ask questions, to demand papers, to check references, to make sure these men can be trusted. But nothing like that happens. Smith's calm does not break. He doesn't look worried. He doesn't look hesitant. It's done like it's normal, like it's tidy, like it's efficient. And for the first time, you understand that whatever this journey is supposed to be, it has room for improvisation. That should comfort you. Flexibility, chance, opportunity. Instead, it chills you. Because if adults can improvise your future, that means your future is not protected by anything solid. Not by law, not by family, not even by the rules Smith claims to follow. Your future is protected only by mood, by convenience, by whether someone decides you look like a good idea. The boat eventually gives way to the next stage of travel, and that stage has a different smell. Iron, smoke, sweat, and the faint sting of oil. The sound changes too, harder, sharper, full of clanks and whistles and voices calling out as if the world is always in a hurry to move on without you. You're moved along again, pressed into lines, guided by hands that don't ask permission. And somewhere along the way, somewhere you don't fully understand, because travel blurs into a long string of waiting and walking and being told to hurry, you hear another detail that hits you like a thrown stone. A boy is added, not from your group, not from the place you left with. A boy pulled in from an Albany railroad yard. It's said like it's nothing, like picking up an extra piece of luggage you forgot. You look at him when he appears, his face tight with suspicion, his eyes darting, his shoulders hunched like he's expecting a blow. You recognize that posture. You've worn it yourself. He doesn't trust anyone, and why should he? A child learns trust the way a child learns language, from the people who speak it to them. If no one speaks trust to you, you grow up mute. Some of the children stare at him like he's an intruder. Some stare at him like he's a mirror. And you realize something else. If a boy can be added like that, then a boy can be lost like that. Slipped away, forgotten, misplaced. Your grip tightens on whatever you have. Maybe a scrap of cloth, maybe nothing at all, but you grip it like it's proof you exist. As the train begins to carry you farther west, the world outside changes slowly. The buildings thin, the air looks wider, the sky feels bigger, less trapped by stone and chimney smoke. For a moment you let yourself imagine that this could be good, and then you remember the boys taken on the boat, and your hope snaps back into caution. If this is rescue, it's a strange kind. If this is kindness, it's a kind that doesn't ask permission. You listen to the clatter of wheels over track, steady and relentless, like the sound of a decision that won't be reversed. And you think, somewhere ahead, adults are gathering, they're preparing a room, they're arranging chairs, they're readying their eyes, and soon you won't just be travelling, soon you will be standing still, while other people decide whether you're worth taking home. So you practice looking brave, you practice looking useful, you practice swallowing fear before it shows on your face. Because you've learned something important about grown-up mercy. It often comes with conditions, and you're about to find out exactly what those conditions look like in a town called Dowagiac. When the train finally arrives, the first thing you notice is the quiet. Not silence. There are still voices, footsteps, the shifting of bodies, but compared to Manhattan, it's like the world has turned the volume down. The air feels cleaner. It smells like earth and wood and something faintly sweet, maybe hay. You breathe in, and your lungs don't immediately protest. For one fragile second, you almost believe that this place might be gentle. Then you see the people waiting. They've gathered with purpose, not the casual purpose of a crowd watching a parade, a sharper purpose, a choosing purpose. Men stand in coats and hats, their faces lined from work and weather. Women stand with their hands folded or busy, always busy. Eyes taking in details the way they take in the condition of cloth, or the size of a potato, or the health of a chicken. You realise with a strange pinch in your chest that you're being looked at the way people look at things that are supposed to fit into a household. A pair of boots, a chair, a new hired hand, a child. Smith moves you forward. He doesn't shove, not exactly, but the pressure of the group and the push of authority does the job. You end up where you're meant to be, displayed. There's a public meeting. It has the shape of respectability. A room, a gathering, a sense that this is organised, and therefore in the minds of adults automatically good. You stand among the others, shoulders brushing, toes hurting, mouth dry. Someone says, "Handy boys." You don't know if you're handy. You've learned to survive, not to describe yourself. But you understand what they mean. Boys who can work. Boys who can lift, haul, learn quickly, obey. Someone else mentions girls for housework. The girls beside you stiffen, their faces still but their eyes alert. They understand too. Housework means inside. Housework means close contact. Housework means being alone with adults who may be kind, or may not. And the terrifying part is this. No one can tell the difference at a glance. A kind face can hide cruelty. A stern face can hide care. A warm voice can hide hunger for control. The adults talk like you're not listening. But you are. You always are. A man steps closer and looks at a boy's arms. Another looks at teeth. Someone asks a question about age, about strength, about whether a child is stubborn. Stubborn. You almost laugh, and the laugh threatens to come out wrong. Because what child here isn't stubborn? You have to be stubborn to still be alive. A woman asks whether a girl knows how to sew. The girl answers softly. The woman nods as if she's inspecting thread. Another child is asked to step forward and speak. The child's voice shakes. You feel your own throat tighten in sympathy. Not because you're sentimental, sentiment doesn't keep you fed, but because you know that feeling. The feeling of trying to sound steady when your world is wobbling. Time stretches. Children are taken aside one by one. like pages being pulled from a book. You watch faces disappear from your group. A boy who had been standing near you is suddenly gone. A girl who had been rubbing her thumb against her palm is suddenly not there anymore. The Albany boy, the one added along the way, is watched carefully. People glance at him the way they glance at a stray dog they're not sure they can tame. You wonder if anyone will want him. You wonder if anyone will want you. And then you're called, or gestured for, or simply approached by a pair of adults who decide they've seen enough. Your heart begins to pound so hard you feel it in your fingertips. You try to remember what your face is doing. You try to keep it calm. You try to keep your shoulders back. You try to look like you can be useful without looking like you're about to cry. Because crying is risky. Crying makes some adults kinder. Crying makes other adults angry. Crying can turn a maybe into a no, so you keep your eyes wide and dry, and you answer whatever questions they ask with the truth, carefully trimmed into a shape adults like. Yes, you can work. Yes, you can learn. No, you won't cause trouble. Inside you, your mind whispers, I will cause trouble if I have to. Trouble is sometimes another word for survival. More children are placed. More hands take wrists and shoulders, guiding children out of the room, and then, slowly, a fact becomes unavoidable. They are all being taken, all 45, every last one. That should feel like relief. No one is left behind. No one is abandoned to the corner of the room like an unwanted chair. But relief does not arrive cleanly, because being taken is not the same as being safe. Being placed is not the same as being loved. And the room is full of certainty, adult certainty, the kind that makes decisions and sleeps at night afterward. You look back once as you're led away. You see Smith still moving, still calm, still managing the moment like a man completing a task. And you realise you're not leaving with closure. You're leaving with a question that will follow you like a shadow. What just happened to you? Were you saved? Were you sold? Were you adopted? Were you indentured? Were you wanted? Or were you merely stuck convenient? Outside, the air is cool. The day is moving on as if it doesn't know it just swallowed 45 lives and redistributed them into strangers' homes. You step forward because you're guided forward. You keep breathing because you have no other choice. And as you cross the threshold into a new house, a new town, a new version of yourself, you feel the weight of it settle in. Your life has been rearranged in a single day. And now comes the part nobody claps for. Now comes the part where you find out what placed actually means. When the door closes and the public meeting is over, and you're alone with the people who chose you. The door closes behind you, and the sound is small. Not dramatic, not thunder, just a soft, final click, like the town itself has turned its face away. Satisfied that the public part is done. For a heartbeat you stand with your hands close to your sides, listening. Inside this house, the air is warmer than outside, but it's not welcoming warmth. It's the warmth of stoves and bodies and simmering things, warmth that belongs to other people. You can smell bread crust, damp wool drying near the hearth, and something sharp that stings your nose. Soap, maybe, or lye. The woman who chose you moves first. Her steps are efficient, not hurried. She doesn't look at you the way strangers looked at you in that meeting. No circling, no whispering, no searching your face for proof you're worth the trouble. She looks at you the way a person looks at a task they've already committed to. You'll hang your things there, she says, pointing to a peg. If you have things, they're small. A worn bundle, a scrap of cloth, a pair of shoes that don't fit right. Still, you obey quickly, because obedience is the safest language you know. The man, her husband, you guess, doesn't speak at first. He stands by the table and watches, not unkindly, but not gently either. His eyes are the eyes of someone who knows what work looks like, because work has lived in his hands for a long time. You want to ask the question that's burning your throat. Am I staying? But you don't. You've learned that questions can sound like accusations, and accusations can make adults defensive. Defensive adults become dangerous, not always with fists, sometimes with coldness. The woman gestures and you follow her through a narrow passage. The floorboards creak under your feet like the house is announcing you to itself, one step at a time. This is the kitchen, she says. It's not grand, it's practical. A table with marks carved into it by years of knives and elbows. A bucket near the door, a broom that leans like it's tired, a kettle that looks like it has survived arguments and winters. She opens a cupboard, checks something inside, then shuts it again, as if reassuring herself that the world is still arranged the way she left it. Then she looks at you more directly, not like an inspection, like a decision. "How old are you?" she asks. Your mouth goes dry. You tell her the age you believe you are, the age adults have called you. It may be correct. It may be close. On the streets, birthdays are not celebrated, they're guessed at. She nods, accepting it, then asks the next question. "Can you read?" You hesitate a fraction too long, she notices. Adults always notice hesitation. A little, you say, because no feels like a door slamming. She makes a sound, almost a hum, almost a sigh. "We'll see," she says. Not cruel, not kind, just measured. Then comes the sentence that pins you in place. "You'll help me here," she tells you, "and you'll mind." Mind. It's a simple word, but it carries an entire world of meaning. Mind and you'll be fed. Mind and you'll have a bed. Mind, the day will pass without trouble. But underneath that, there's another message, quieter and sharper. Mind, because you have nowhere else to go. She doesn't say it. She doesn't need to. A moment later, she turns away, busying herself with something at the stove, and you're left standing there trying to understand what you've been turned into. In the meeting, you were a child. In the house, you're something else, not a guest. Not exactly family. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You are a presence the household must absorb, a mouth that must be fed, a pair of hands that must earn their keep. You're still standing there when the man finally speaks. "Wash up," he says, nodding toward a basin. You do it quickly, scrubbing your hands the way you've seen women scrub laundry, hard enough to remove the world from your skin. The water is cold and it turns your fingers red. You don't complain. The woman sets a piece of bread on a plate. Your stomach tightens with hunger so sudden it almost makes you dizzy. You don't grab for it. You wait. She watches you for half a second, then gestures. Eat. You eat carefully, not like you're starving, even though you are. Because starving children who eat too fast look wild, and wild things make people nervous. The bread is coarse, but it tastes like safety, or like the closest thing to safety you've tasted in a long time. As you chew, you realize something that is both comforting and terrifying. They are watching you even when they are not looking at you. They are listening to how you chew, how you swallow, how you breathe. They are learning who you are, and you are learning who you must become. The woman speaks again, softer now. "There's a place upstairs for you," she says, and points with her chin like pointing costs too much effort. "After supper, you'll go there." Upstairs. The word sounds like distance, like separation, like being stored away where you won't be underfoot. You nod. You're very good at nodding. The rest of supper is quiet, not tense exactly, but careful. You listen to the clink of utensils, the scrape of a chair, the crackle of the fire. Each sound feels too loud because you're trying to decide whether this house is a threat. When the plates are cleared, the woman finally leads you upstairs. The steps are narrow, the ceiling slants. The air changes, cooler, dustier, smelling of old cloth and dried wood. She opens a door. Inside is a small bed, more like a narrow cot, a thin blanket, a pillow that's more honest than comfortable. Not luxury, but it's yours, at least for tonight. The woman points again. "You'll rise early," she says, "and you'll help." Then she pauses at the doorway, her hand on the frame, as if she's deciding whether to add something she doesn't usually say. "You'll be all right," she says at last. The words land strangely. Not affectionate, not a promise. More like a sentence she's trying out in her mouth. And then she closes the door. Now you are alone. And this is the moment you didn't have time to fear in public. because fear was busy pretending to be calm. In the dark, with the house quieting around you, you finally let your thoughts breathe. You think of the meeting. You think of the eyes. You think of the children who stood beside you. You think of how quickly the room emptied, and you wonder, very quietly, where the others are sleeping tonight. Are they warm? Are they safe? Are they being watched the way you were watched? You lie down, pulling the blanket up, and the fabric smells like someone else's old winter. It scratches your chin. Your body is tired enough to fall asleep, but your mind keeps walking in circles. Because one question refuses to leave you alone. What will they ask of you tomorrow, when the house is fully awake and there's no crowd to witness how they treat you? You wake before anyone calls you. It's not because you're eager, it's because your body has learned that sleeping too long is a luxury that gets punished. The room is dim. Early light presses through the window like a shy hand. You sit up slowly, listening. Downstairs you hear movement, soft steps, the faint clatter of a pot, the sound of someone stirring coals back to life. The house is waking the way an animal wakes, cautiously, routine first, no wasted motion. You swing your feet to the floor, the boards are cold. Your shoes, if you have them, feel stiff. If you don't, the cold goes straight into your bones. Either way, you make no sound. You don't want your first achievement in this house to be annoying. When you go downstairs, the woman is already working. She doesn't turn fully, but she acknowledges you with a quick glance. Good, she says, as if punctuality is your first test and you've passed. There's no long speech about how things are done. There's no welcome. There's no comfort. Instead, she gives you a job. Water, she says. Bring it. You move toward the bucket, then hesitate. You don't know where the well is. You don't know which bucket is allowed. Which one will get you scolded for touching? The woman sees your pause. Her eyebrows lift. Not angry, yet, but expectant. You choose a bucket and step outside. The morning air hits you like a clean slap. It smells of soil, wood smoke, and something animal. Livestock, you think, though you don't see them yet. The yard is quieter than the city ever was. No shouting, no wagons rattling past your ear, no crowd noise, just the hush of a place that isn't constantly trying to swallow you. You find the well by following the worn path in the dirt, the path that says, "This is what we do every day." You lower the bucket carefully. The rope is rough and bites your palm. When you pull it up, the water is heavy, and it makes your arms tremble. You steady yourself because dropping it would mean noise, trouble, embarrassment. Back inside, the woman pours it without comment. Then she hands you another job, and another. Peel, sweep, wash, carry. Every task is small, but together they add up to something big, a set of rules. And you realize that in this house, you'll learn the rules the hard way, by doing them wrong once. At breakfast, the man speaks more than he did last night. Not much, just enough. He asks the woman about the day. He asks about weather, about something that needs fixing. He barely looks at you, but you can feel his awareness like a weight in the room. At one point he says, "She's quiet." The woman replies, "Quiet is fine." You don't know whether to feel relief or shame. Quiet is fine, because quiet doesn't demand anything. Quiet doesn't complain. Quiet doesn't remind them that you came from somewhere else. After breakfast, the woman shows you the next boundary. "This room is not for you unless I'm here," she says, tapping a doorframe. "This shelf is for flour, don't waste it. This cloth is for Sunday." Every instruction is plain, no poetry, no softness. But there's a strange comfort in it too. Rules mean the world is stable enough to have expectations. In the street, there were no rules, only threats. Here, the threats are quieter. They live in tone and glance, not fists. That doesn't make them harmless. It just makes them harder to predict. Mid-morning, a neighbour woman comes by. You hear her voice before you see her. It rises and falls in the doorway, curious and friendly, like she's there for conversation but also for information. The woman of the house wipes her hands and speaks to the neighbour in a careful tone. Polite, controlled. And then the neighbour's eyes find you. You feel them land on your face and travel downward. Your dress, your hands, your posture. The neighbour smiles. "Oh," she says, So that's her. Not who. That. You keep your face calm. You keep your hands busy. You become invisible in plain sight because invisibility is safer than being examined. The neighbour asks questions. Where did she come from? Is she any good? Does she know how to work? The woman answers without giving much away. She's here, she says. She'll do. Do. A small word, but it feels like you've been reduced to a single purpose. After the neighbour leaves, the house feels tighter, quieter. The woman doesn't scold you, she doesn't praise you. She just resumes work, as if being talked about like an object is normal. Maybe for her it is. For you, it's a lesson. Your story belongs to other people now. They will tell it how they like. They will trim it and shape it until it fits their comfort. By afternoon, your hands ache. Not the sharp ache of injury, but the deep ache of repetition. The ache of doing the same motion until your body begins to understand that this is your life now. You scrub a pot and watch the soot swirl in the water like dark smoke trapped in a bowl. You think of all the things you don't know. Do you call these people mother and father? Do you call them by their names? Do you call them anything at all? You don't ask. You wait. Because asking might make them think you're ungrateful. And ungrateful children, you suspect, are the easiest to send away. As the sun sinks, the woman finally gives you something that isn't a task, a small piece of cloth. Use that, she says, nodding to your hands. They're raw. It's not tenderness exactly, but it's care, and it confuses you more than coldness would, because if they are cruel, you can prepare. If they are kind, you can relax, but if they are both, practical and occasionally gentle, then you don't know where you stand. That night, when the door closes again, you lie in your narrow bed and stare at the ceiling. Your body is exhausted, your mind is wide awake, and you catch yourself doing something dangerous. You imagine a future here, not a dream future, just a plain one. A future where you know the rules without fear, a future where you don't flinch at every footstep, a future where your name, whatever it is, belongs to you again. Then you stop yourself, because hope is still dangerous, and you have survived too long by treating hope like a thing you handle carefully, like a candle near dry cloth. The third day is when your mask slips, not fully, not dramatically. Just enough for the house to notice that you're not made of wood. It starts with something small. The woman asks you to carry a pot of water from the stove to the table. The pot is heavier than you expect. Your hands are sore from scrubbing and hauling. The cloth she gave you helps, but not enough. You lift the pot carefully. You take one step, then another. The water inside shifts, and the sudden weight change pulls your arm just slightly. A splash jumps over the rim and lands on your wrist. It burns. Not a blistering burn, but hot enough to sting, hot enough to shock your body into reaction. And before you can stop it, a sound escapes you. A small gasp, a half cry. It's nothing really, but in a house built on quiet, it feels like a shout. The woman turns sharply, her eyes lock on your wrist. For a second, her face is unreadable. Then she says, "Careful." Just that. But the word carries an edge. Careful, as in, you are costing time. Careful, as in, mistakes are not charming. Careful, as in, we did not choose you to be fragile. You swallow hard and nod. You set the pot down with shaking hands, trying to hide the tremble as if it's shameful. The man looks up from where he's repairing something near the table. Some strap, some tool, something you don't recognize. He glances at your wrist, then at your face. "You'll learn," he says. It's meant to be reassuring, but it lands like a verdict. You are not already what they need. You spend the rest of the day being extra careful, the way a person walks after nearly slipping on ice. Slow, tense, overcorrecting. And in doing so, you make another mistake. You spill flour. Not much. Just a dusting on the table, but you see it immediately and feel your stomach drop. Flour is not like street crumbs. Flour is the difference between bread and hunger. Flour is money in the shape of powder. You freeze, staring at it. You imagine the woman's face tightening. You imagine her voice cooling. You imagine the word waste falling on you like a stone. You reach for a cloth with frantic speed and begin to wipe it up. Your hands move too fast. The flour smears. It doesn't disappear. It's still there. Of course it is. The woman sees it, and you feel the room change. She doesn't yell. That's the strange thing. She just stops moving for a moment, then comes over and takes the cloth from your hand. Her grip is firm, not cruel, but final. You don't scrub flour, she says, low and controlled. You gather it. She demonstrates, scooping it carefully, saving what can be saved. Then she looks at you again. You listen, she says. When I tell you. Your throat tightens. You want to say, I'm trying. But trying is not a result. Trying is not bread. So you whisper, yes, ma'am. It's the first time you call her anything with respect built into it, and you don't know whether it pleases her or irritates her. Later, when the day's work finally loosens its grip on the house, you're sent outside to shake a rug. The air is colder now, the light fading. You beat the rug with a stick, watching dust lift and float like ghosts that don't know where to go. And then you hear it. Voices. Children's voices. Not from inside. From somewhere beyond the yard. For a second. Your body forgets itself and turns toward the sound like a flower turning to sun. You see them. 2 children. Local children. Standing near a fence line staring. They aren't close enough to see your face clearly. But you can feel their curiosity anyway. You can feel their questions without hearing them. Is she one of them? Is she the train girl? Is she the one they brought in? They whisper to each other and glance away when you look directly at them, as if eye contact is rude. You don't smile, not because you don't want to, because you don't know how. A smile feels like offering your throat. One of the children, a girl, maybe a year or 2 younger than you, takes a step forward. Are you from the city? She asks. The question is simple, innocent, but it lands like a punch because it reminds you that you are marked. You're not just here. You're from somewhere. You hesitate too long, and in that hesitation, she learns what she wanted to know. Her eyes widen slightly. She leans back as if the city is contagious. Then she asks the second question, the one that matters. Did they pick you? Pick. That word again. You swallow. You could lie. You could say, no, I came on my own. But the lie would be too big. It would fall apart the moment anyone looked at you for longer than a breath. So you answer in the smallest way you can. Yes, you say. The children stare, then exchange a look that is half awe, half discomfort, like they're looking at a stray animal that's been brought into a house. The younger girl opens her mouth again, but a voice calls from somewhere behind them. An adult voice, sharp with authority. They flinch. And that flinch tells you something important. Even the real children of this place live under fear. It's not just you. The children scatter, disappearing into dusk like birds startled from a fence. You stand there holding the stick, your arms tired, your heart racing for no reason that makes sense. But it does make sense. Because that brief exchange did something dangerous. It reminded you that you're still a child. Not just hands, not just work. A child who wants to speak to another child. A child who wants to ask, where are the others? And when you go inside, the woman looks at your face. She tilts her head slightly. What's wrong? She asks. And the question surprises you so much you nearly answer honestly. Nearly. But honesty is a risk you haven't learned how to afford. So you say, nothing. She studies you for one long moment, then returns to what she's doing, and you realize the truth. In this house, your feelings are allowed only if they don't interfere with your usefulness. That night, lying in the narrow bed, you replay the day's mistakes in your mind. The spill, the burn, the moment your voice escaped. You wonder how many mistakes you're allowed before you become regret. And then another thought comes, quieter but heavier. If this is the better life, why does it still feel like you're walking on a floor that could drop out at any time? You close your eyes, forcing your breathing to slow. Tomorrow will come early. It always does. And tomorrow, you promise yourself, You will be quieter. You will be faster. You will be exactly what they expect. But deep down, something stubborn, something alive, whispers back, and what if what they expect is the very thing that will erase you? You fall asleep telling yourself to be quieter tomorrow, but sleep doesn't erase anything, it just lowers the lantern. So the worries stay in the room with you, sitting in the corners, waiting for you to open your eyes. When dawn comes, you wake with your jaw clenched. Not because you're angry, because you're bracing. You dress quickly in the dim light, careful with every movement, as if the air itself could complain about you. You smooth your clothing like it might convince the house you belong here. Then you step out into the passage and listen. Downstairs, the woman is already moving. Of course she is. The day doesn't begin when you rise, it begins when she decides it begins. You go down quietly and take the first task without being asked, because you've learned something important. If you choose your work before someone assigns it, you look less like a burden and more like a decision they can be proud of. You draw water, you stir ashes, you sweep the corner where yesterday's dust still hides. You're almost proud of yourself for moving like you've been here for months. And then the knock comes, not loud, not urgent, just a knock with authority tucked inside it. The woman pauses, only for a breath, and wipes her hands as if she's preparing to be inspected. She opens the door. A man stands there in a coat that looks too clean for farm work. His posture is straight, and he carries himself like someone used to rooms turning toward him. A pastor, you think, or a church elder. He nods at the woman and speaks her name, then his eyes slide to you. He doesn't stare the way people stared in the meeting. His gaze is quicker, more practiced, like he's learned how to look at suffering without letting it slow his day. "Is this the girl?" he asks. Your stomach tightens. Not child, not your name, the girl. The woman answers without hesitation. Yes. He takes a step inside. The room feels smaller immediately, like his presence has reduced the space where you're allowed to breathe. He clears his throat. "I came to settle the matter," he says. "The understanding." Understanding. That word makes your hands go cold, because you've been living on understandings your whole life, unspoken ones. The understanding that you don't complain. The understanding that you don't cry where adults can see. The understanding that you don't ask to be loved. You earn whatever scraps of warmth you get. The pastor removes folded papers from his coat. He lays them on the table with care, like they're important enough to deserve gentleness. The woman leans in. The man of the house comes from wherever he's working and stands at the table too, his hands still smelling faintly of leather and iron. They speak over you as if you're not there. But you are there, and you are listening. You catch fragments. Arrangement. Care. Education. If possible. Work. Of course. The words slip in and out like fish. You try to grab them, but they keep darting away. The pastor looks at the woman. "You understand," he says. "This is not a simple charity." The woman's mouth tightens in a line that could mean anything. "We understand," she replies. Then the pastor adds, almost casually, "And if it fails, if the girl won't mind, if she won't do, there are ways to return her." Return. That word lands in you like a stone dropped into water. Return means you are not rooted. Return means you are still movable. Return means you can be undone. Your throat closes. You stare at the table, at the papers, at the careful folds. Your life fits inside those folds. The pastor continues, still speaking like this is ordinary household business. "There are expectations," he says, "for your sake and hers." For your sake, as if you are the danger that must be managed. The man of the house finally speaks, low and steady. "We'll keep her," he says, not warmly, not proudly, but firmly, like he's making a practical statement about a tool he intends to maintain. The woman glances at you. Her eyes hold yours for half a heartbeat. It isn't affection, but it also isn't emptiness. It's something like assessment, mixed with a reluctant acknowledgement that you're not an object, because objects don't look back. The pastor turns to you at last, and now you know why he came. He came to make sure you understand your place. He doesn't ask how you feel. He doesn't ask whether you're afraid. He doesn't ask whether you remember your own mother's face. He asks, "Do you know what's expected of you?" Your mouth goes dry. You nod because nodding is safer than speaking. He watches you for a moment, then says, "You will be obedient. You will be honest. You will be industrious." Industrious. It sounds like a compliment. It's not. It's a command wearing fine clothing. The pastor picks up the papers again and speaks to the woman and man, pointing to a place on the page. They don't sign in front of you, not formally, not like a ceremony, but they do agree. And you feel it. You feel the moment your fate settles, not because anyone touches you, because the adults stop hesitating. The pastor folds the papers and tucks them away. At the door, he pauses, then looks at you once more. "You should be grateful," he says. Grateful. You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, because it's so easy for him to say. Gratitude is simple when you're not the one being weighed and measured. When he leaves, the woman closes the door gently, but her shoulders relax only after the latch clicks. The man goes back to his work as if the conversation never happened. And you stand there, hands hovering over a broom, trying to understand what just changed, because everything did, and nothing did. You still have chores, you still have a bed, you still have no guarantee that this is permanent, but now you know, deep in your bones, that you're here on conditions, and conditions can be broken. The woman finally speaks, not looking at you. "You heard him," she says. "Yes, ma'am," you whisper. She turns then, just a little, and her voice lowers. "Mind," she says again, "and you'll be fine." Fine. That small word holds the entire promise of your new life. Not happy, not loved, not safe. Fine. She hands you a fresh task as if the papers and the pastor never existed. And you take it, because you understand something else now too. The real agreement isn't the one on paper. The real agreement is written in your behaviour, and you are the one who must keep signing it every single day. By the time Sunday comes, you've learned the rhythm of the week, the way you learn a stranger's mood, by watching carefully and guessing correctly. Sunday is different, not easier, just different. The house wakes early, but the work is rearranged. The woman's hands move with an extra kind of tightness, as if she's preparing the household to be judged by other households. You're washed more thoroughly than usual. Your hair is smoothed. Your clothing is adjusted until it lies the way she wants it to lie. Not because she suddenly cares about your comfort, because she cares what people will think. And you understand that too. In the street, being seen could get you fed. Here, being seen can get you condemned. When you walk to church with them, the air is crisp and clean enough to make your chest ache. The road is quieter than the city ever was, but the silence doesn't feel peaceful today. It feels like anticipation. As you approach the church, you see people gathering, families stepping inside, women pausing to speak in low clusters, men greeting each other with firm nods. You feel it immediately. This is another kind of public meeting, not the one where they chose you, the one where they decide what you mean. You step inside and the room's warmth is crowded warmth. Bodies close, breath and wool and polished wood. Heads turn, not all at once, but enough. You feel eyes land on you and flick away and return again, like curiosity that pretends it's not curious. The woman of the house keeps her chin slightly lifted. The man's shoulders are squared. They are signalling something to the room. We can handle this, and you are the this. You sit where you're guided. You keep your hands folded. You keep your posture neat. You do not look around too much, because looking around suggests you're searching for an exit. The sermon begins. The pastor's voice rolls through the room, steady and certain. He speaks of duty, of sin, of redemption, of discipline. Some words slide past you, others stick. Obedience, work, salvation. And you wonder if salvation in this place looks suspiciously like being useful and quiet. During a hymn, you hear the woman beside you sing softly, her mouth shaping the words with familiarity. The man sings too, lower, like he's doing it out of respect more than joy. You don't sing much. You don't know the hymns well. And not knowing makes you feel exposed. A girl in the pew ahead glances back at you. She looks about your age, maybe a little younger. Her ribbon is neat, her dress clean, her hands smooth, hands that don't look like they scrub pots every day. Her eyes meet yours and she holds the stare for a heartbeat too long. Not cruelly, curiously. Then she turns forward again, as if you've been filed away in her mind under a new category. After church, the real test begins. Outside, people linger. They don't rush home, they talk, and talking is how a town decides what it believes. A woman approaches the woman of your house first, smiling with practiced sweetness. "I heard you took one," she says. "Took one, not adopted, not welcomed. Took." The woman of your house answers politely, carefully, "Yes." The other woman's eyes move to you. "Is she good?" "Good. Like your bread. Like you're a horse. Like goodness is a trait that can be confirmed by looking at your face." The woman of your house says, "She works." Works. Again, the same word, in the same place it always lands. The other woman nods, satisfied, and moves on to the next conversation. As the cluster shifts, you hear bits of talk like loose thread catching on your skin. They're lucky to have found homes. Some of them are trouble. City children. You have to watch them. You stand near the woman of your house, holding yourself still, because you've learned stillness makes adults feel safe. A few men look at you, not with interest, but with judgment that feels older than you. A few women look with something softer, pity maybe, or sympathy. Sympathy is dangerous too. Sympathy can turn into gossip, then you see her. An older woman not young enough to pretend kindness is effortless. She approaches slowly, her expression unreadable until she's close. She looks at you directly. No flinching, no politeness. "What's your name?" she asks. Your throat tightens. Your name is a fragile thing. It belongs to the past and the present at the same time, and you don't know which version of it is allowed here. You say it quietly. The woman repeats it, testing it, then nods once. She turns to the woman of the house. "Mind she's treated decent," the older woman says. It's not phrased like a request. It's phrased like a warning. The woman of the house stiffens. "Of course," she says quickly. The older woman's gaze flicks back to you. "Eat," she says, as if she can see hunger living behind your ribs. "And keep your eyes open." Then she walks away. You don't know whether to feel comforted or frightened, because that woman spoke like she's seen things. And people who've seen things don't offer warnings for sport. On the walk home, the woman of your house is quiet. The man is quiet too. The silence feels heavier than usual, like the house is carrying the town's opinions back with it. When you reach the yard, the woman stops you before you go inside. She looks at you for a long moment. "You behaved," she says. It's the closest thing to praise you've heard from her. Your chest loosens slightly. Then she adds, "Keep doing that." And the looseness disappears again. Because even praise here is conditional. That night, in your narrow bed, you replay the churchyard voices. You think about the way they looked at you. Not as a person trying to survive, as a story they can use, a warning story, a charity story, a work story. You close your eyes and try to imagine what it would feel like to be looked at, the way that other girl was looked at. Like she belongs without needing to earn it. You can't picture it. Your mind rejects it like a lie. And in the dark, you admit a truth you haven't dared to say out loud. If you're going to live here, you can't just learn the household rules. You have to learn the town's rules too, because a town can punish you even when the house doesn't. And you're starting to suspect the town is always watching. The next week brings weather that turns the ground hard and the morning sharper. Your hands stay rough, your wrists stay sore, your shoulders get used to lifting things you didn't know you could lift. In a strange way, your body begins to adapt faster than your heart does. Your heart still expects the floor to drop, but your hands begin to move like they have a place. One afternoon, the woman sends you outside to gather small pieces of wood near the shed. It's not heavy work, but it's cold work. Cold fingers, cold breath, cold air biting your ears. You crouch near the woodpile, choosing pieces that look dry enough to burn well. You're learning to read objects now. Which wood will smoke, which will catch quickly, which will waste time. As you pick up a piece, you hear footsteps behind you. You tense automatically. Then you hear a child's voice. Not the woman's, not the man's, not an adult's voice, a child's voice. You turn slowly and see the same girl from church. Ribbon, clean dress, smooth hands. She stands just beyond the fence line as if the fence is a boundary she's not supposed to cross. She looks at you, then at the wood in your arms. "Are you always working?" she asks. It's not meant to be cruel, but it's so innocent it nearly makes you laugh again, that bitter little laugh you keep swallowing. You answer carefully. Mostly. She steps closer to the fence, hands gripping the top rail. "Do you like it here?" she asks. Now that's a dangerous question, because there are answers that keep you safe, and answers that tell the truth. You consider lying, saying yes, saying it's fine. But the wind is cold and you're tired, and something in you, something stubborn, something alive, wants to speak like a real person for once. So you don't say yes, and you don't say no. You say, "I don't know yet." The girl's eyes widen slightly as if she's never heard uncertainty spoken out loud. She glances over her shoulder toward the road, checking whether an adult is watching. Then she whispers, "My mother says you came on the train." The train. Even here, the train follows you. You nod. The girl hesitates, then asks the question you've been asking yourself every night. "Do you miss your old home?" Home. You almost choke on the word. Old home could mean the street. It could mean a room you barely remember. It could mean a mother's voice you haven't heard in so long you're not sure it was real. Your mouth opens, but no sound comes out. Then you force yourself to speak. "I miss people," you say. It's true, and vague enough to be safe. The girl's face softens. For a moment, she looks like she might cry, like she's imagining what it would feel like to be taken far from everything familiar. Then she does something that startles you. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small piece of sugar candy wrapped in paper. Your stomach flips, not because you've never seen candy, because it's an offering, a gift offered without conditions. She holds it toward you through the fence rail. You stare. Your mind floods with alarms. If you take it, will it be seen as stealing? If you take it, will the woman of the house accuse you of begging? If you take it, will the girl's mother blame you for corrupting her child? Your hand hovers, then pulls back. The girl frowns. "It's for you," she whispers. "I won't tell." You look at her face, searching for trickery. There is none. Just a child's awkward attempt at kindness, and suddenly you understand this is a moment where you get a choice, not a big choice, not a life-altering decision, a small choice. But small choices are rare for you. You can refuse and stay safe in the strictest sense, safe from accusations, safe from suspicion, or you can accept and risk being human. Your fingers reach out slowly and take the candy. The paper is cool against your skin. The sugar smell rises faintly, sweet enough to make your mouth water. The girl smiles, quick, bright, then immediately nervous again. She steps back from the fence. "I have to go," she says, and then she's gone, moving fast as if kindness itself is something she'll be punished for. You stand there holding the candy like it's a jewel, like it's evidence that you're not completely alone. You tuck it into your pocket and finish gathering wood, but your heart is beating differently now. Not calmer, just less empty. Inside, the woman takes the wood from you without comment. You don't mention the girl. You don't mention the candy. You carry the secret upstairs later and sit on the edge of your bed with it in your palm. You consider eating it immediately. You also consider saving it for a day when you feel like you can't take another rule, another command, another careful breath. In the end, you do something you didn't expect. You unwrap it and take the smallest bite. Not because you're hungry, because you want to remember what sweetness feels like in case you forget. And as it melts on your tongue, you realize something that scares you more than coldness ever did. If you start letting yourself feel small comforts, you might start wanting bigger ones. You might start wanting safety. You might start wanting affection. You might even start wanting to belong, and wanting for someone like you is dangerous. Because what happens if you begin to belong, and then you're taken away again? You lie back and stare at the ceiling, the taste fading, the questions returning. Somewhere out there, other children from that same journey are living their own first weeks, some in houses like yours, some in houses better, some in houses worse. And you wonder, very quietly, if the adults who sent you here could look at you right now, alone in a narrow bed, holding on to a single bite of sweetness like it's a lifeline, would they call this success? Or would they finally admit what you're starting to understand? That placing a child is the easy part. The hard part is what happens after the door closes. You tell yourself you won't want anything. Wanting is how you get hurt. So you keep your wants small, quiet, hidden. You keep them folded up inside you like a letter you're not allowed to send. And then, without warning, the house discovers your weak spot. It happens on an ordinary morning. Ordinary meaning, the kind where the woman's hands are already busy before your eyes are fully awake. The stove crackles, the kettle murmurs, the air smells like damp ash and yesterday's work. You move through your chores with the careful speed you've taught yourself, quick enough to be useful, slow enough not to break anything. You've learned which boards creak and which ones don't. You've learned where the soap is kept and how much is too much. You've learned the woman's pauses, those tiny silences that mean she's counting mistakes, counting costs, counting whether you're worth the trouble. So you keep your head down, you sweep, you scrub, you carry water until your arms feel like they belong to someone older. And if the day stayed like this forever, you might survive without changing at all. You could become a quiet shadow that works and eats and sleeps. But the day doesn't stay like this, because the past has a habit of showing up when you least expect it. Sometimes as a thought, sometimes as a face, and sometimes as a single word spoken in the wrong place. Near midday, the man of the house comes in with mud on his boots and a look on his face that suggests he's been listening to someone else's opinion. He doesn't speak to you directly at first. He speaks to the woman. "Ran into Mr. Haskins," he says, shaking off his coat. "He said there's still talk." The woman keeps her eyes on what she's doing, but her shoulders tighten. Talk about what? The man doesn't answer right away. He sits, pulls something from his pocket, maybe a small tool, maybe a strap, and works it in his hands as if he can shape the conversation into something manageable. "About the train children," he says finally. Train children. You feel the phrase like a finger pressed into a bruise. You stop moving for half a second, then force your hands to keep going, because stopping looks like listening, and listening looks like caring. And caring looks like disobedience. The woman's voice stays even. "People always talk." "Not always," the man says. "You keep scrubbing. Your heart beats faster, not because you're afraid of gossip. Gossip is just wind, and you've survived worse than wind. You're afraid of what the wind can knock over." The man continues, his voice low, like he doesn't want the walls to repeat him. He said some folks are saying these children aren't right, he says. That they're city-raised, that they're sly. Sly. You almost smile, because if being sly means noticing danger before it bites you, then yes, you are sly. But you don't smile, you keep scrubbing. The woman replies, "She's not sly." She says it like she's stating a fact about flour or weather, not defending you out of warmth, defending her own decision. The man's gaze flicks toward you briefly, quick as a knife flash, then away again. "She's quiet," he says. "Quiet's good." Quiet again. Always quiet. As if your voice is an animal they're trying to keep caged. The woman turns the conversation because she knows how to do that. "Well," she says, "what else did he say?" The man hesitates. That hesitation makes the air colder. "He said," the man begins, "that the agent, Smith, he wasn't careful." The woman's hands pause, not because she's shocked, because she's calculating. Not careful can mean many things. Not careful can mean scandal. Not careful can mean trouble. Not careful can mean the town asking questions that make a house look foolish for ever saying yes. The woman sets down what she's holding and faces the man fully now. Not careful how? The man shifts in his chair. He took boys off before they even got here, he says. People said it, taken by passengers. No proper... He gestures vaguely, as if the word itself is unpleasant. No proper references. References. That word makes your stomach twist because you've heard it before. Whispered, muttered, spoken like a spell that's supposed to protect children from bad homes. But you've also seen how spells work in the real world. They work when people choose to believe in them. The woman's jaw tightens. And you heard this from Mr. Haskins? He heard it from someone who heard it from someone, the man says. You know how it goes. The woman exhales through her nose, controlled and irritated. So it may be nothing. May, the man agrees. But his voice says he doesn't like may. He likes certainty. And certainty, in a situation like yours, is dangerous, because certainty makes people decide. The woman's eyes shift to you again. This time she looks a fraction longer. Not unkind, not warm, just assessing, as if she's measuring the cost of keeping you against the cost of losing face. You keep your eyes down and keep scrubbing, like you're the kind of child who doesn't overhear adult conversations. But of course you overhear. You always do. The man continues and his voice drops. He said, the man says, that some families might bring their trained children back if they don't work out. Bring back. Return. There it is again. The word that makes you feel like a piece of furniture someone can move if it doesn't match the room. The woman's voice hardens. We're not bringing her back. You freeze for a breath. You almost let yourself feel relief. Then she adds, not unless we have to. And the relief collapses back into caution. Because that's the truth you live under. Not unless. The man stands as if the conversation is done. He gives the woman a look that says, keep her in line. Then he walks past you without touching you, and that feels worse than a shove. After he leaves, the woman stays still for a moment. Then she speaks, not to the air, not to the man, directly to you. You heard that, she says. It's not a question. Your throat tightens. Lying is a habit you've used to survive. But you've learned that in this house, lies are punished differently than on the street. On the street, lies can get you fed. Here, lies can get you sent away. So you nod once. Yes, ma'am. The woman's eyes narrow slightly, not anger, not cruelty. Calculation. Do you understand what that means? She asks. You hesitate, because you do understand. But saying you understand feels like signing your own chains. Still, you answer carefully. It means I have to mind. The woman's mouth presses into a thin line. Yes, she says. And you have to work. You nod again. Then she leans in slightly, her voice lowering in a way that feels almost intimate, almost like she's letting you see the truth underneath her. People don't like surprises, she says, not in their house, not in their town. Surprises. You want to tell her you're not a surprise, you're a child. You're not a storm, you're not a plague, you're not a trick, but you don't. Because you can feel the real message behind her words. If the town decides you're a problem, this house may decide it too. The woman straightens and hands you another task as if she's closing the conversation like a door. Finish that pot, she says, and don't daydream. Daydream. You almost laugh again, silently, as if you have the luxury, as if your mind hasn't been running plans and warnings and rehearsals every moment you're awake. You scrub the pot until your fingers ache. And all the while, one thought repeats in your head like a drumbeat. They found your weak spot. Not hunger, not cold, not pain. The weak spot is this. You want to stay. Even if stay only means a bed and bread and a door that clicks shut at night. Even if stay means working until your hands don't feel like your own. Because being sent away again would mean starting over. And you don't know if you have another start left in you. That night, you climb the stairs and sit on the edge of your bed with the same carefulness you use for everything now. You press your palms together and feel the roughness. You think about the gossip, the talk, the word references floating around like a protective charm that never seems to protect the child who needs it most. and you realize something that frightens you. As long as the adults can return you, you will never truly rest. So you make a decision in the dark, not a big decision, not a heroic one, a practical one. You will become indispensable, not loved, not pitied, indispensable, because indispensable things aren't returned. The next day, the woman gives you more work than usual, not because she suddenly needs more, because she's watching how you react. Adults do that. They hide tests in ordinary moments the way you hide a crumb in your pocket for later. She sends you to fetch water twice. She has you scrub the floor until the boards shine in the light. She makes you fold cloth the right way, then unfold it and fold it again when you do it wrong. She never raises her voice. She doesn't need to. In a house like this, quiet correction is its own kind of threat. By afternoon, your shoulders burn. Your stomach aches from hunger you don't mention. Your mind feels thin, stretched tight. And then the woman does something unexpected. She tells you to sit. At first, you think you misheard. You stand there with your hands half raised, ready to take another task. But she repeats it, sharper. Sit. You sit, carefully, on the edge of a chair, as if you're not sure you're allowed to touch it. The woman opens a small tin and removes a needle and thread. She holds up a garment, something of yours maybe, with a seam coming loose. Without speaking much, she begins to mend it. Her fingers move quickly, practiced and sure. You watch, silent. You don't know whether this is generosity or another test. After a moment, the woman speaks. When you work, she says, still sewing, people notice. You swallow. Yes, Mom. She doesn't look up. When you make mistakes, people notice that too. You nod again. The needle flashes in and out of cloth like a tiny controlled blade. Then she says, and when you listen, people notice. You feel your chest tighten. Because she isn't talking about chores. She's talking about gossip, about talk, about what the town thinks. The woman finally looks up at you. Her eyes are tired, but there's something firm in them. This house doesn't need trouble, she says. Do you understand? You answer quickly. Yes, Ma'am. She returns her gaze to the cloth. You're not here to be a story, she says. You're here to be useful. Useful again. Always useful. You wonder what she thinks a child is supposed to be, if not a person, but you don't ask. The woman finishes the stitch and ties the thread off with a small tug that feels final. She hands the garment to you. There, she says, now it won't come apart. You take it and whisper, thank you. The word thank you tastes strange in your mouth. It feels like stepping on unfamiliar ground. The woman's mouth tightens slightly, like she's embarrassed by your gratitude or irritated by it. Then she says something quieter. You're lucky, she tells you. Lucky. You don't know whether to agree or to laugh. Lucky to be chosen. Lucky to be watched. Lucky to be useful. Lucky to have a bed that isn't the ground. She continues. Some children don't get placed quick. Your heart stutters. You keep your face still, but your mind sharpens. Some children. You think of the group, faces you saw for only a short time, then lost. You think of the way the meeting felt like a storm passing through, scattering lives. Where do they go, you ask, before you can stop yourself. The question escapes you, small but real. The woman looks at you sharply. For a second, you think you've ruined everything. You think you've shown too much feeling. But she doesn't explode. She just studies you, and her expression changes, not softer exactly, more complicated. They go where they can, she says at last. Not a comforting answer. Not a cruel one. A practical one. She stands and puts the sewing things away as if she's closing the door on the subject. Then she says, almost as if she's correcting herself, don't trouble your head with it. Trouble your head, as if you can choose what your mind holds, as if you can decide not to think about children who might be hungry or frightened or alone. But you nod. Yes, Ma'am. The woman turns back to her work, but the atmosphere in the room has changed. Because for a moment she lets something slip, a hint that she knows this system isn't tidy, that children don't always land softly, that placement isn't a clean word. Later that evening, when the man returns, the woman mentions nothing about your question, but you notice something new. She sets an extra piece of bread on your plate without comment. Not a feast, not indulgence, just a little more. It would be easy to call it kindness. But you've learned to be careful with that word. Sometimes bread is kindness. Sometimes bread is investment. Sometimes bread is a way to make sure you keep working tomorrow. Still, your throat tightens as you eat it. Because whether she meant it as kindness or not, it feels like a small sign that you're not entirely invisible. And invisibility, you're starting to understand, is not the same as safety. Sometimes safety is being seen, just enough. Not as a curiosity, not as a warning, as a person who will remain. That night you lie in bed and think about your question. Where do they go? You realize you don't just want to know out of curiosity. You want to know because if you ever get returned, you will become one of the some children. And the thought of being some child again, unnamed, unplaced, movable, makes your stomach twist. So you make another decision in the dark. You will not ask the woman again. You will learn the answers the way you've always learned truths, by listening at doorways, by watching faces, by noticing what adults say when they think you are only furniture. Rumours move through a small town the way smoke moves through cloth. Quietly, thoroughly, impossible to keep out. A few days after the sowing, you're outside hanging wet cloth to dry. The air is cold enough that the water stiffens the fabric before the sun has much chance to touch it. You work fast, fingers numb, pinching clothespins like your life depends on speed. Because in some ways it does. That's when you hear voices beyond the fence again. 2 women this time, talking as they pass on the road. Their words drift toward you without effort. You aren't meant to hear, but you do. "Heard he left with the rest," one woman says. "The rest?" the other asks. "Yes," the first replies. "Not everyone gets taken quick." Your stomach drops. The second woman makes a sound, half sympathy, half judgment. "Well, some of them are too small, some look sickly. Folks don't want trouble." Trouble. As if a child's need is an insult. You keep hanging cloth, but your arms feel heavy. The first woman continues. "And it's not like there's proper follow-on," she says, lowering her voice. "Once they're placed, that's it. No one comes around." The second woman clicks her tongue. "I told my husband. I said, if you're taking one, you'd better be sure. Because once the town sees you bring one back, they'll never let you forget it. Bring one back. Return." The women's voices fade as they walk on, but the words stay. They stay like splinters. No one comes around. The town will never let you forget it. You finish the laundry with hands that tremble slightly, though you try to hide it. Inside, the woman is kneading dough, her arms moving with calm strength. The kitchen smells like yeast and warmth. You stand in the doorway for a moment, watching her. You think about what the women said. You think about the idea of no one coming around. And suddenly you understand something that makes your mouth go dry. This house isn't just your test. You are the house's test too. If they treat you badly, who will stop them? If they treat you well, who will praise them? If they return you, who will judge them? The answer to all 3 is the same. The town. Not a law, not an agency, not some distant office that keeps records and asks questions. Just people. People with opinions and memories and sharp tongues. The woman looks up and sees you standing there. "What are you doing?" she asks, and her tone is sharper than usual. You realize you've been frozen in place too long, listening with your face. "Nothing, ma'am," you say quickly. "I finished the cloth." The woman wipes her hands and steps closer. Her eyes search yours like she's trying to find what you're hiding. "You've been listening again," she says. Again, so she knows. Of course she knows. Your heart pounds. You could deny it, but denial feels thin, so you choose the safest truth. "I heard women on the road," you say softly. The woman's face tightens, and you see something flicker there. Annoyance, worry, maybe even shame. "People talk too much," she says. Then she pauses. And in that pause she seems older, not by years, by weight. You don't repeat what you hear, she tells you. No, Mum, you say quickly. She watches you, then nods once like she's deciding to accept your answer. But before she turns away, she adds something that lands in your chest like a quiet warning. And you don't give them a reason to talk, she says. You swallow. Yes, Mum. She returns to the dough, her movements a little harder now, as if she's kneading her own irritation into something useful. You move to your next task, but your mind is burning. Because now you know the shape of your world more clearly. The town watches the house watches you, and you watch everything, because you have to. That night, you lie in bed and imagine what it would feel like to have someone come around, to check, to ask if you're safe, to notice whether your eyes look tired, whether your hands are raw, whether you flinch when footsteps come too close. You imagine being asked simply, "Are you all right?" The thought makes your throat ache, not because you're in pain, because no one asks. So you ask yourself instead, "Are you all right?" You don't answer out loud. Out loud is dangerous. But in your mind, you answer honestly. You are surviving, and you are learning. And you're starting to understand the cruelest part of all. Your life now depends less on whether you are good, and more on whether the adults around you want to be seen as good. Because that is what towns reward. Not truth. Not mercy. Appearance. You close your eyes and force your breath to slow, the way you always do when your thoughts become too sharp. Tomorrow, you will wake early. You will work. You will mind. You will remain. But deep down, in the part of you that refuses to be erased, a new question forms. Quiet, stubborn, terrifying. If the town is the only judge, then who is protecting you when the town decides not to look? You wake up before the house tells you to, not because you're eager. Because you've learned the safest way to exist is to arrive early to your own life, so no one can accuse you of arriving late. The morning is thin and cold. The window lets in a pale light that looks almost reluctant. You dress quietly, tugging at cloth that still doesn't feel like it belongs to you, and you go downstairs with your steps measured, careful. The woman is already there. She always is. And today, she looks different. Not softer. Not kinder. Different in a way you can't name at first. Her hands are working, but her face is distant, as if her thoughts are somewhere else in the room, somewhere you can't see. She doesn't give you a task immediately. That alone is strange enough to make your stomach tighten. Finally she speaks, and her voice is low. "Come here," she says. You approach slowly, like you're stepping into a space where a trap might be set. She doesn't look at you right away. Instead, she opens a drawer by the table and pulls something out. A strip of cloth, a ribbon, something small, folded neatly, as if it's meant to be saved. She holds it up. "You'll wear this today," she says. You blink. "Yes, ma'am." It's not pretty in the way the town girls wear pretty things. It's plain, but clean. And the fact that it's clean is the point. Clean means respectable. Clean means controlled. The woman steps close and ties it into your hair with practiced fingers. Her touch is firm, not gentle, but it isn't rough either. You hold still, because stillness is your gift to adults. When she's done, she takes a half step back and studies you. Not like she's admiring you, like she's checking whether you pass. Pass as what? As a daughter? As a servant? As a charity case that isn't embarrassing to keep? You don't know. She reaches for your chin and tilts your face slightly toward the light. "Look at me," she says. You do. Her eyes scan yours with a strange seriousness. "Listen," she says, and this time the word has weight. "There are women coming by today." "Women." You swallow. "Yes, ma'am." The woman's mouth tightens. "You will speak only when spoken to," she says. "You will keep your hands clean. You will not stare." You nod quickly. Then she adds the line that makes your skin go cold. "And you will not cry." You feel your throat tighten. You weren't planning to cry. Crying is dangerous. Crying is unpredictable. Crying is something that escapes you when you're too tired to hold yourself together. But the way she says it tells you something. She's not warning you against tears. She's warning you against showing the town you're human. because tears are proof of feeling, and feeling makes people uncomfortable. She releases your chin. Go wash, she orders. You wash your face and hands until your skin feels tight, then you scrub under your nails until there's nothing left that could be judged. The woman watches you like a hawk watches a field. When you're done, she hands you a cloth and points at your shoes. You wipe them too, even though you know no wiping can truly make them new. But you do it anyway, because obedience is a kind of camouflage. By late morning, the knock comes. Not the casual knock of a neighbour. A polite knock. The knock of someone who expects to be welcomed. The woman straightens her shoulders and opens the door. 2 women step inside. They are dressed cleanly. Their hair is arranged. Their hands are smooth enough that you can tell they don't spend every day scrubbing pots. They smile as if smiling is their job. The first woman's eyes dart to you immediately and the smile sharpens. "Oh," she says, like she's found what she came to see. "So that's her." That phrase again. Not who. That. The woman of your house answers with careful pride. "Yes." The second woman steps closer, her gaze moving over you with the same quiet confidence as someone examining cloth for flaws. "She's small," she says. "Small. As if you're a measure of usefulness." The first woman tilts her head. "But she's got bright eyes," she says. And her voice has that tone people use when they're trying to sound kind. You keep your face still, you keep your eyes lowered. The woman of your house gestures toward chairs. "Sit," she says to them. They sit, and the room fills with the sound of polite conversation. Weather, church matters, someone's illness, someone's new calf. Words that flow easily because they cost nothing. You stand near the edge of the room, hands folded, listening. Then the first woman turns, her smile fixed. "What do you call her?" she asks. The woman of your house pauses, just a breath. But you hear it. That pause is the sound of a decision being considered. The woman answers with your name, the one you gave, the one you still carry like a fragile object. The visiting woman repeats it slowly, tasting it. Then she gives a small laugh that isn't cruel. Exactly, but isn't kind either. "That's a city name," she says. City name. As if names can betray you. As if your past can leak out through the way people call you across a room. The second woman's eyes narrow a little. "You'll have to watch her," she says. "City children are quick. Quick." You almost want to tell her that quick is the reason you're alive, but you don't. The woman of your house replies smoothly, "She minds." The first woman's smile widens. "Does she?" she asks, and her tone turns playful. "Well then, let's hear it." She points at you with the casual authority of someone who's never had to fear being pointed at. "Come," she says. "Tell me, are you grateful?" Your stomach drops. Grateful. The word again. Your mouth opens, and for a second you don't know what to say, because gratitude is not a feeling you can perform on command. Gratitude has layers. Gratitude has fear trapped inside it. But you understand the real question. The real question is not, are you grateful? The real question is, are you obedient enough to say what we want to hear? So you answer in the smallest, safest way. "Yes," you say. "Ma'am." The woman laughs softly, satisfied. "She's well trained," she says to the others, "like you're a dog that doesn't bite." You keep your face blank. Inside, something hot flickers. Anger, shame, exhaustion. Then the second woman leans forward, lowering her voice slightly as if she's sharing a secret. "Have you had any trouble?" she asks the woman of your house. Trouble. The woman's hands tighten around her cup. "No," the visiting woman continues, "no stealing, no lies, no sulking." You feel yourself shrink inward. You're standing there while they list the worst things they believe you could be. The woman of your house replies evenly, "No." The first woman's voice turns more serious. "Because you know," she says, "if she turns out wrong, it reflects on you." Reflects. Like your existence is a stain that could spread. The woman of your house's jaw tightens. "I understand." The visiting women exchange a look. The look people share when they believe they've said something important. Then the first woman stands. "Well," she says brightly, turning the seriousness back into politeness, "we should go." They move toward the door, and you remain still, waiting to be dismissed like a chair that's no longer needed. At the doorway, the second woman glances back at you and her voice softens a fraction. "Mind," she says. It's the same word every adult uses, as if your entire soul can be reduced to a single instruction. The women leave, the door closes, and the house exhales. The woman of your house stands still for a moment, hands at her sides, shoulders rigid. Then, quietly, so quietly you almost don't hear it, she says something you've never heard from her before. "They come to see if I was foolish," she murmurs. You freeze. She said I, not we, not the household, I. For the first time, you see the shape of her fear. Not fear of you, fear of the town, fear of being judged for bringing a strange child into her home. You don't know what to do with that knowledge. You want to offer her something, comfort, understanding, proof you won't ruin her life. But you don't know how to comfort an adult. Adults are not built to be comforted by children like you, so you say nothing. The woman turns to you and studies your face, as if she's trying to decide whether you understood too much. Then she gives a short nod. "You did fine," she says. "It's not warm, but it's the closest thing to approval you've ever received. And it makes your chest tighten painfully, because you realize the truth. You're not just fighting to stay, you're fighting to keep her from regretting you. That afternoon you scrub harder than usual, you move faster, you make fewer mistakes, because now you understand the danger more clearly than ever. You can be returned, yes, but before you're returned you can be turned into a story. A story that makes the town feel wise for distrusting you. A story that makes the woman of your house feel ashamed for keeping you. And stories, you're learning, can push a person out of a home long before anyone physically opens the door. That evening the air turns colder, and the sky looks bruised with the promise of winter. The woman sends you outside to bring in wood. You go quickly, grateful for the excuse to breathe away from the tightness of the kitchen. You step into the yard and the cold hits your cheeks. You inhale and the air feels sharp enough to clean your lungs. As you gather wood, you hear movement near the fence. You look up and see the ribbon girl again, the one who gave you sugar, the one who looks at you like you're strange but not disgusting. She stands on the other side of the fence rail, bundled in a shawl, her cheeks red from the cold. She hesitates, then whispers, "Hello." You glance toward the house instinctively. The girl notices and her eyes widen. "Are you in trouble?" she asks. You shake your head quickly. "No." She steps closer. Her breath fogs in the air. "My mother says the ladies were at your house." Your stomach tightens, so the town already knows. "Of course it does. You say nothing." The girl's voice lowers. "They do that," she whispers. "They go see. Go see, as if you're a curiosity, as if your home is a display." Then she adds, in a smaller voice, "They went to Mrs. Larkin's too." You pause, wood in your arms. "Who?" The girl's eyes dart away. "The woman who took one of the train boys." "Train boy." Your heart stutters. You hadn't wanted to ask again. You hadn't wanted to show you cared. But the girl is a crack in your discipline, and your question slips out. "What happened?" The girl swallows. "He's gone," she whispers. "Gone." Your fingers go numb. "Gone where?" you ask too fast. The girl shakes her head. "I don't know," she says. "He ran off. That's what people say." Ran off. You imagine it, small feet on cold ground, a child moving into darkness with nothing but fear and stubbornness. You imagine him running because the house was cruel, or because he was lonely, or because the town's eyes felt like knives. The girl's face tightens. "They're saying he was bad," she whispers. "They're saying he stole." Stole. You feel anger flare. Not because stealing is noble. You know stealing. Stealing is hunger with hands. Stealing is what happens when the world refuses to feed you, then punishes you for not dying politely. The girl looks at you, eyes wide. "Are you going to run?" she asks. The question strikes you like a slap. Run? Your throat tightens. The idea of running is both terrifying and tempting. Run means freedom. Run also means cold. Run means hunger. Run means being alone again. And you don't know if you can survive alone anymore, not because you've become weak, but because you've started to taste something dangerous, stability. You answer slowly, carefully. "No," you say. "I'm not." The girl exhales, relieved, as if your answer matters to her more than it should. Then she leans closer to the fence and lowers her voice further. "People are watching you now," she says. "Watching. Always watching." You nod. The girl bites her lip, then says, "If you ever need to hide something, I can." Hide something. You stare at her. It's an offer of friendship, clumsy and bold, and it frightens you. Because friendship is another kind of wanting, and wanting, as you've learned, can get you hurt. Still, you can't deny the warmth that spreads through your chest. You can't deny the way your body relaxes for a breath, as if her words loosened a strap you didn't know was tight. You whisper, "Thank you." The girl smiles quickly, then glances back toward the road. "I have to go," she says, "before my mother wonders." She turns away, then pauses. "And don't listen to the ladies," she whispers. "They don't know you." Then she's gone, slipping into the dusk like a secret. You stand there holding wood, your mind racing. A train boy ran off. The town says he stole. The town decided what his story would be, and now the town is watching you for signs you'll become the next story. You carry the wood inside, your arms aching, and you set it down neatly. The woman glances at you. "Why are you pale?" she asks. You swallow. You can't tell her about the boy. Not directly. Not without risking her fear. Not without risking her pride. So you answer the safest way. "Just cold, ma'am," you say. The woman studies you. Then she nods once and returns to her work. That night, in your bed, you stare at the ceiling and think about the missing boy. You wonder if he was hungry. You wonder if he was scared. You wonder if he was treated as a child or as a problem. And the most frightening thought of all rises quietly. If he can disappear, you can disappear too. Not just physically. In the town's memory, in the records, in the story people tell themselves about what happened to you, you close your eyes and force yourself to breathe slowly, like you're teaching your own body not to panic. Because you understand something now that you didn't understand when you first arrived. Survival isn't only about food, it's about reputation. It's about being seen as harmless. It's about being seen as worth keeping. And you can feel the edges of that trap tightening around you. Softly, politely, like a ribbon being tied. The next day, the house feels different. Not because anything has changed in the kitchen. The stove still crackles, the floor still needs sweeping, the water still needs carrying. But you feel a pressure in the air, like the walls are listening more closely than usual. The woman is quieter too. Not calmer. Quieter in the way someone becomes quiet when they're protecting a decision. You work with extra care, remembering the visiting women, remembering the missing boy, remembering the girl's whisper. People are watching you now. By mid-morning, the woman sends you to the pantry. "Bring the flour," she says. Your stomach tightens immediately. Flour is not just food. Flour is judgment. You move carefully, lifting the sack with both arms. It's heavier than you expect. Your fingers strain around it. You step back toward the kitchen. And then it happens. Your foot catches on something. An uneven board, a corner you didn't notice, the tiniest betrayal under your heel. The sack slips, not fully, not enough to burst, but enough that a small puff of flour escapes into the air. A pale cloud, soft, harmless looking. But you know what it means. It means waste. It means clumsiness. It means, to the wrong eyes, you're not worth the trouble. You freeze. Your heart pounds so hard you feel it in your throat. The woman turns. Her eyes lock on the dusting of flour on the floor. For a long moment she says nothing. Then she steps closer, slow and controlled. She looks at the flower, then she looks at you. And you can see it. The calculation that has lived in her for weeks. Is she safe to keep? Will she embarrass me? Will she become a story? Your hands tremble slightly. You force them still. You wait for the scolding. You wait for the coldness. You wait for the phrase that opens the door. We can't keep her. Instead, the woman kneels. She kneels, right there, in her good skirt, and begins to gather the flower carefully, saving what she can. The act shocks you more than any slap could, because it's not just about the flower. It's about what she chose to do in front of you. She chose to fix the problem, not punish you for it, and that choice feels dangerous, because it suggests she's attached, not with affection, with commitment. The woman gathers the flower, then looks up. Her voice is low, and it's not cruel, but it's sharp. "Do you want them to talk?" she asks. You swallow hard. "No, mum." "Then you watch your feet," she says. "You watch your hands. You watch your mouth. Watch. Always watch." Then she stands and brushes her skirt, her jaw tight. "I will not be made a fool," she says. The sentence isn't for you, it's for herself, but you feel it anyway. You nod quickly. "No, ma'am." The woman stares at you for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, her voice shifts, just slightly softer, like she's letting a truth slip through. "They don't forgive women," she says, "not for mistakes." Women. Your chest tightens. You've been so busy surviving that you forgot the woman of this house is also surviving, just in a different kind of cage. The town judges her too. The town measures her too. The town watches her for any sign she's failed at being proper, and keeping you realise, is a risk she carries every day. The woman exhales and turns away, as if she regrets saying anything human. "Clean it," she says briskly. "Properly." You clean it properly. You scrub the floor until the wood looks like it never held a single grain of flour. But your mind is stuck on what she said. They don't forgive women, and suddenly you understand why the visiting women came. They didn't come to see you. They came to see her, to see whether she's still in control, to see whether she's still safe to respect. And you, just you, are the thing that could make her unsafe. That afternoon, the woman sends you outside again. The air is colder now. The sky hangs low. You stand in the yard and look toward the road, half expecting to see the ribbon girl, half expecting to see the visiting women, half expecting to see nothing at all. Instead, you see something else. A small figure near the far fence line, too far to recognize, too quick to trust your eyes. A child, a shadow. You blink, and it's gone. Your heart stutters. You think of the missing boy. You think of running feet. You think of the way the town turns a child into a story. You stand there with cold air burning your lungs and realize the truth that has been building quietly inside you. You're living on a narrow strip of approval. One mistake can make you a rumour. One rumour can make you a return. And a return can make you disappear. That night, you lie in bed and listen to the house settling. Wood creaking, wind pressing at the windows, the distant sound of the man's boots downstairs. You touch the ribbon in your hair before you untie it, feeling the knot the woman made, firm and practical, and you whisper so quietly you can barely hear yourself, "I will not disappear. Not like that. Not as a story. Not as a warning. Not as a mistake that gets erased to protect someone else's pride. You don't know how you'll prevent it. You just know you have to." Because once you understand how easily a child can vanish in a world like this, you can't unknow it. You don't sleep much. Not really. You close your eyes, your body goes still. But your mind keeps one ear pressed to the world, listening for the sound that means your life is about to change again. So when the knock comes, harder than usual, sharper than polite, you're already halfway awake inside your bones. The woman is at the table, hands busy with something small. She freezes. The man is by the stove. He looks up and the look on his face tells you he hears the knock the same way you do, as a threat. Another knock follows, impatient now. The woman's eyes flick to you, not soft, not gentle, A command without words. Stay where you are. Don't move wrong. Don't speak. She wipes her hands as if she's trying to wipe off fear too, then goes to the door. The latch lifts. Cold air spills in. A man stands outside. Not a neighbour, not a friend. His coat is buttoned tight. His hat sits right. His posture says he expects to be obeyed. You don't know his name. You don't need to. The way he looks past the woman into the house tells you he's here to inspect something, or someone. I'm looking for the child, he says. The woman holds the door frame like it's the only solid thing in the world. What child? The one from the train, the man answers, as if there could only be one. The girl. Your stomach drops. Train. Girl. Said like a label. Said like a reason. The man's eyes finally find you, standing at the edge of the room like a shadow that forgot how to disappear. There she is, he says. The woman's voice is careful. What do you want? The man doesn't smile. There's talk, he says. Talk that folks have been unsettled. Talk that some placements were made too quickly. Talk that the agent wasn't thorough. Thorough. That word hits you like a cold hand around the back of your neck. The woman keeps her face controlled, but you see the tension in her jaw. And what does that have to do with me? She asks. The man's eyes move over the room, taking in details like a ledger. Nothing, he says, unless you've had trouble. The woman answers instantly. No trouble. The man's gaze shifts to you. And she minds? You feel your mouth go dry. You know what he's asking. You also know what he's really asking. Is she obedient enough that the town won't blame you? Are you safe to keep without becoming a story? You nod quickly. Yes, sir. Your voice comes out too small, too eager, like begging. The man seems satisfied by your fear. He reaches into his coat and pulls out papers. Papers again. Always papers, always someone else holding words that decide what you are. The woman doesn't reach for them. She doesn't invite him in. The man clears his throat as if preparing to read judgment aloud. There may be a review, he says. A meeting, just to ease concerns. Meeting. The word makes your heart thump painfully, because you remember the last meeting. The last meeting was where you were chosen. A meeting can also be where you are unchosen. The woman's eyes flash. A meeting for what? She asks. She's here. She works. She eats. She sleeps. That should be the end of it. The man's mouth tightens. People want reassurance, he says. People want to know the town hasn't brought in trouble. Trouble again, as if your existence is an infection that has to be watched. He glances at you, then back at the woman. If there's any concern, he says, it's better to settle it quickly. Settle it. That word makes your hands go cold, because settled for adults means quieted, and a quieted problem can be removed. The woman steps forward slightly, blocking the doorway more fully, as if her body itself is a barrier. She isn't going anywhere, she says. The man studies her, as if surprised a woman would speak with that kind of firmness. Then he nods once. We'll see, he says. And with that, he tucks the papers away without showing you what they said, turns and walks off into the cold as if he's leaving after checking a fence line. The door closes. The woman doesn't move for a moment. The man of the house exhales slow. Then he says low and blunt, "This is what I warned you about." The woman turns on him. "Don't," she snaps. It's the first time you've heard that edge in her voice. Not directed at you. Directed at someone who can answer back. The man's jaw works. They're sniffing around, he says. They think they can make us look foolish for taking her. The woman's eyes flick to you again, and you feel a jolt of panic. Because if they're being attacked, they might defend themselves by sacrificing you. That's how grown-ups solve problems they can't control. They push the smallest person into the fire and call it a solution. The woman's voice lowers. Go upstairs, she tells you. You don't hesitate. Your feet move before your mind can argue. You climb the narrow steps, your heartbeat loud in your ears. You enter your small room and close the door because closing doors has become your whole life. You sit on the bed, hands clenched. Downstairs their voices carry, muffled but sharp. You catch pieces. Meeting, town, reputation, return, return. That word makes you feel sick. You press your palms to your eyes as if you can push the fear back inside, and then you realise the cruel part. You've been working to become indispensable, but if the town decides you're a threat, your usefulness won't matter, because the town doesn't care how hard you scrub. The town cares how clean the story looks. You stay upstairs until the woman calls you down again. When you descend, you're careful with every step as if sound itself could betray you. The woman stands at the table, arms crossed. Her face is calm, but it's the calm of someone holding a storm behind her teeth. "You will do exactly as I tell you," she says. "Yes, ma'am," you whisper. She points toward the pantry. "If anyone comes," she says, "you go there. You stay quiet. Do you understand?" Your throat tightens. "Yes, ma'am." The pantry, a place to store flour, salt, dried apples, and now a place to store you. You almost want to laugh, because there's dark humour in it, being hidden among the food like you're just another supply. But the humour dies quickly, because you understand what she's really saying. If the wrong people come, your best chance of staying is to not be seen at all. That night, you lie awake again. You listen to the wind, you listen to the house creak. And you wait for the next knock because the man at the door didn't come to end anything. He came to begin it. And somewhere in town, people are gathering words. Words that can move faster than truth. Words that can turn a child into a rumour. And rumours are hungry. They don't stop eating until something disappears. The next day feels stretched thin. The woman watches the road from the window more than she watches the stove. The man moves around the house with the stiff energy of someone preparing for an argument. And you, because you're you, do what you've always done. You become quieter. You work harder. You keep your hands busy so your mind doesn't run wild. By afternoon, the woman sends you outside briefly to shake a rug. The cold air bites your face, and for a moment it feels good, like a slap that reminds you you're still here. Then you see the ribbon girl. She stands near the fence, bundled up, her cheeks red, her eyes bright with worry. She doesn't waste time on greetings. "They're meeting," she whispers. Your stomach drops. "Who?" "The men," she says, "and some ladies, at the church." Church again. Always the church. As if God is being asked to bless decisions that feel nothing like mercy. "What about?" you ask, though you already know. The girl bites her lip. "About the train children," she whispers. "About you." The world tilts slightly. You grip the rug tighter to steady yourself. The girl leans closer. "My mother says they're going to ask questions," she says. "About the agent, about the promises, about whether people are keeping order." Order? The town's favourite word. Order is what people want when they're afraid. Order is what people demand when they can't control their own fear. "Are they going to—" Your voice catches. You force it out. "Are they going to take me?" The girl's eyes widen. "I don't know," she whispers. "But—" She glances toward your house, then back at you. "But if they do," she says, voice trembling, "you can come to our barn." Your throat tightens. It's a child's offer. Brave, impossible, dangerous. You almost say yes. Then you remember what barns mean when you're hiding. Cold hay, rats, hunger, panic, the sound of footsteps outside. You swallow. "Thank you," you whisper. But you don't want to run," the girl finishes softly, like she understands more than she should. You look at her face and see something tender there, something that feels like the beginning of sisterhood, the kind women carry for one another when men turn life into rules and papers. It's a small thing, but it warms you more than the stove ever has. The girl reaches into her pocket and presses something through the fence rail. Another small candy, or maybe a ribbon scrap. You can't even tell because your fingers are numb. "Just keep it," she whispers. So you remember someone here wanted you to stay. Wanted. That word hits you harder than all the town's talk. Because wanted is the opposite of placed. Placed is what happens to objects. Wanted is what happens to people. You take it and hide it quickly because gifts are dangerous too. The girl steps back. "I have to go," she whispers. "My mother will ask why I'm gone." She turns, then pauses. "If you hear the church bell," she says, "don't come." Your stomach twists. I won't. And then she's gone. You go back inside carrying the rug like it weighs nothing and everything. The woman looks at your face immediately. Did you speak to anyone? She asks. Your heart stutters. You could lie. But lying now feels like walking on ice. Yes, Mom, you admit. The girl from the fence. The woman's eyes narrow. And what did she say? You hesitate just long enough for the woman to understand you're hiding something. Her voice sharpens. What did she say? You answer carefully. She said there's a meeting. The woman's face tightens. She turns toward the man who's sharpening something at the table. Slow, deliberate strokes. They're doing it, she says. The man doesn't look up. Of course they are. The woman turns back to you, and for the first time you see fear in her eyes that isn't about reputation. It's about loss. Not of you, exactly. Of control. Of the life she arranged. If the town can undo her decision, then her home isn't fully hers, and that terrifies her. She grabs your shoulders, not roughly, but firmly enough that you feel how strong she is. You listen to me, she says low. If anyone comes here, anyone, you go to the pantry. You do not make a sound. You nod quickly. Yes, Ma'am. She releases you and steps back, breathing hard through her nose like she's trying not to shout. The man finally looks up. His eyes meet yours. His voice is blunt. If they take you, he says, you don't fight. The words hit you like a slap. Because he says them like he's giving advice about weather, like being taken again is just another ordinary thing that happens. Your throat tightens so hard you can barely breathe. But you nod anyway, because what else can you do? Later, the church bell rings in the distance. A slow, heavy sound. Not a call to comfort, a call to judgment. You don't go. You don't even look out the window. You sit near the pantry door, sweeping the same patch of floor over and over because movement keeps you from shaking. Minutes pass, then more minutes. The woman keeps glancing at the door. The man keeps sharpening, even when the blade looks sharp enough to cut a hair in half. Then, finally, the door opens, not to a stranger. To the woman herself, stepping out for a moment, then returning, alone. She closes the door and leans against it for a breath like she's holding the house up with her spine. The man looks at her. Well? The woman's voice is tight. They talked, she says. The man's jaw clenches. And? The woman's eyes flick to you and she pauses. Then she says, they said, keep order, keep the child in line, don't let it become a spectacle. It, not you, it. Your stomach twists. The woman inhales slowly, then adds quieter. They didn't say take her. Relief hits you so hard your vision blurs for a moment. You blink fast, forcing it back. You can't afford tears, but the relief doesn't feel safe. It feels temporary, because the town didn't promise anything. The town simply postponed. And you understand that now. You didn't win. You were spared. And being spared is not the same thing as being secure. That night the woman sets your plate down with an extra piece of bread again. Small, silent, deliberate. She doesn't look at you when she does it. But you see the message anyway. I kept you, for now. And your whole body aches with the knowledge that, for now, is still not forever. Winter edges closer. The mornings sharpen. The sky turns pale and hard. The wind finds every crack in the house and pushes into it like an uninvited guest. And you keep working. You keep minding. You keep being exactly what they can tolerate. But something has changed. Not in the woman's tone, not in the man's bluntness. In you. Because once you realize you can be taken back, once you hear adults discuss you as a matter of order and talk, you stop pretending this is stable. You stop imagining a future the way you once dared to imagine it. Instead, you start building something else. A plan. Not to run. Not yet. A plan to remain yourself no matter where you're put. You learn the house so well you can move through it in darkness. You learn the woman's moods by the way she sets down a cup. You learn the man's temper by the silence before his words. You learn the town's eyes by the way voices shift when you pass. And you learn one final truth. Survival here is not a single act. It's 1,000 small ones. One morning the woman calls you to the table. She holds a small object, plain, worn, but clean. A Bible. She doesn't present it like a gift. She presents it like a responsibility. "You'll carry this to church," she says, "and you'll sit proper." You nod. "Yes, Mum." She hesitates, then says something that surprises you. "You've done well," she says. The words are quiet. They should feel like warmth, but you've learned to treat warmth cautiously. Warmth can be real. Warmth can also be the moment before someone asks more of you, so you answer carefully. "Thank you, ma'am." The woman's mouth tightens as if gratitude embarrasses her. Then she turns away and the moment is gone. But it stays in you anyway, because it's proof you can influence your fate, even if you can't control it. That afternoon, the ribbon girl appears again at the fence, but she doesn't speak much. She only looks at you and says, "They stopped talking." Stopped. Not forgot. Not forgave. Stopped. You nod. She watches you for a moment, then whispers, "Sometimes they start again." You swallow. "I know." She hesitates, then asks softly, "Do you ever think about your family?" Family. The word makes your chest ache. You think about shadows of faces. You think about names that feel distant. You think about the way your past has been folded away like papers in a coat pocket. You answer honestly, but quietly. "Yes," you say. The girl nods, as if she expected that. Then she says something that lands like a stone in your stomach. "My mother says some of the train children had brothers and sisters." You freeze. Brothers. Sisters. The thought is sharp and sudden, not because you didn't know siblings exist, because you realize how easy it would be to lose them forever if the town separates children like it separates chores. You whisper, "Do they know where they are?" The girl shakes her head. "No," she says. "Sometimes nobody knows." Nobody knows. That's the most terrifying sentence you've ever heard. Because it means a child can be taken from everything they love, placed into a stranger's home, and the world can simply shrug and continue. No one knows. You stand there looking at the fence rail between you and the girl, and you realize that fence is nothing compared to the real barriers in this world. Distance, silence, missing records, people who decide children are easier to move than to protect. The girl leaves, and you go back inside, your mind burning. That night, you lie in bed and stare into the dark. You don't cry. You don't pray out loud. You simply make a promise to yourself, quiet as breath. If you ever find a way to help another child feel less alone, you will. If you ever find a way to keep someone from disappearing, you will. Even if you can't save everyone. Even if you can't save yourself perfectly. Because you've learned what this system can do. It can feed you. It can house you. It can even teach you to work. But it can also erase your past so completely that you don't even know what you've lost. And that brings you to a question, one you can't stop thinking about, one that sits in your chest like a weight. If you were the woman of this house, and the town told you a child was trouble before the child ever did anything wrong, would you keep her anyway, or would you return her just to keep your own life clean? Now, keep that question with you. Because in the next story you're going to step into the most brutal part of the orphan train era, the part that didn't just place children, it tore families apart. Siblings were often separated at stops, and there was no unified tracking system to preserve family connections. Many orphan train riders never learned they even had brothers or sisters, and some reunions happened only decades later through genealogy and modern DNA testing.